A warning tonight about fake online dating profiles that could lure you into a dangerous trap. Aaron Black showed up for a date. Instead, he was held up at gunpoint.
As I was turning around, I had a gentleman running up on me with a gun drawn.
Men aren't taught to be as cautious and as leery as women are.
All of our findings really indicate to us that violent sexual predators use dating apps as hunting grounds for vulnerable victims. What we found is incredibly concerning. We found that these rapes were much more violent. A third of the victims were strangled.
An hours-long standoff.
Several recent cases in the news highlight the concerns, including an Oregon man who went on the run after police say he tortured a woman and was using dating apps to find potential victims.
He was throwing me into the walls.
A Michigan woman kidnapped for 3 weeks and brutally beaten by a man she met on a dating app.
2 alleged victims here.
And in Maryland, a man accused of terrorizing, raping, and robbing men he allegedly lured through a popular dating app.
There are alarming figures out this morning showing almost 3/4 of the people on dating apps in Australia have been subject to harassment and abuse online. Nearly 10,000 people were surveyed as part of the research, with 40% saying they'd received unsolicited sexual images.
A third say they've been subjected to either sexual assault, coercion, drink spiking, or stalking in person.
Grand jury today indicts 4 Frisco men on federal hate crime charges. These men are accused of using the dating app grindr to target and violently rob gay men.
A gruesome murder has come to light from Delhi, which has sent shockwaves across the country.
Hey guys, it's me, Comrade Lavend here. Today I'm back on another anti-capitalism vlogmas video. Today I'm going to be doing the Pure Evil, the dating app, website, industry files, capitalism, true crime, etc. All my other YouTube videos related to this very topic will be linked down in the YouTube description down of this video below if you'd like to check them out. For more, let's get started into this YouTube video topic. OkCupid, grindr, Bumble, Tinder, Match.com, Hinge, etc. are just some of the dating apps we're going to be talking about. Dating apps were popular before the pandemic, but forced isolation due to the COVID-19 pandemic caused these dating apps and these websites to boom and explode with popularity. Tinder, the most downloaded dating app in the world, hit 3 billion swipes in a single day during March 2020, and it's broken that record more than 100 times since then. Dating apps, which first made their way into the world through Tinder in 2012, entered India a short while later and other countries as well. Within a few years, a number of both foreign and Indian apps popped up on mobile screens, quietly transforming the way people look for love in India and other countries. These apps first saw adoption in the big metro cities and are now growing rapidly in smaller towns and cities. The enforced social distancing rules of the pandemic bringing in an even bigger surge of use to these platforms, while these apps have given young people the freedom to find loves in ways they weren't possible before. There's also been a dark side to them, and has been replicated in the familiar seedy Indian street of catcalls and creepy men on the web. Users, especially women, have for long complained about the proliferation of fake catfish profiles, the abusive and creepy behavior encountered on these platforms, of the many scams and the general bad behavior overall, and sometimes even assault and stalkings, even when they go out on dates. A 2020 Pew Research Center survey found that 60% of female users of these dating apps between the ages of 18 years old and 34 years old in the United States said someone continued to contact them after they said they weren't interested in them, and 57% reported having received unwanted, sexually explicit texts or images. Another survey published by the Australian Institute of Criminology last month found that 3/4 of users of dating apps reported being victims of some form of online sexual violence in the past 5 years, 1/3 experienced in-person abuse from someone they met on a dating app, with 27% of those reporting incidents of sexual assault or coercion, such as drink spiking. In 2019, the Columbia School of Journalism in New York City and news site ProPublica found that the Match Group, which owns around 45 dating apps, only screened for sex offenders on its paid-for apps, not free platforms like Tinder, OkCupid, or Hinge. Late one night, back in 2019, Shweta, name change on request to protect her identity, sat alert in a chair in her home, her eyes transfixed in horror by her phone. From a message in her WhatsApp account, she can see the live location of a man she escaped from just hours earlier, circling around the locally in Delhi where she lived. He would call repeatedly and threaten her. When she gathered the courage to answer, his words would be filled with threats. "Wait until I find you," he would scream in cuss words and expletives. Again and again, she had encountered this man, first on the dating app Bumble, and only hours earlier wrangled herself out of an unpleasant date with him. He knew basically where she lived, but mercifully did not know where she lived exactly in what building, and now he was back in the area, searching and prowling around the neighborhood, looking for her building to find her. In another true crime case, the fact that Avid Poonwalla first met his partner, Sharita Walker, on Bumble may be incidental. Abuse and murders have all occurred in relationships where individuals met under conventional circumstances too. But the gory details of this case, alleged abuse throughout the relationship, the dismemberment of the corpse, and how the media reports claim he returned to the dating app and even brought home some of his dates while parts of her dismembered body were still in the fridge at his home. A dating apps association with the case has brought the platforms under a new kind of scrutiny they have really been subjected to before in India. In India, the power to choose a marriage partner has traditionally rested with the parent, but these dating apps have changed that. It has took away the power from the parents and handed it to their sons and daughters. It is their adult children now, with few simple right and left swipes, determining who they're interested in and who they're not interested in, or even if they want to be in a committed or casual relationships. Such freedom, especially for women, has rarely if ever existed. It is easy to see why dating apps in less than a decade have become so popular. And it isn't just women alone who find themselves at the center of true crime cases and abuse online. 4 years ago, when Deepika Bajwa began to hear the story of a woman who killed a man she met on Tinder in Jaipur, she got in a car in Delhi and rushed to the city. Bajwa is a documentary filmmaker whose work often focuses on the flight of men falsely accused of dowry and rape. Then 27-year-old Priya Seth allegedly swindled men by promising to provide sex workers from an escort agency. She had, as the allegation goes, devised a plan to find someone rich on Tinder to kidnap. To his misfortune, Dushyant Sharma, operating on his own set of lies, giving his name as Vivian Kolati and describing himself as a rich businessman when he was already married and belonged to a middle-class family, swiped right on her profile. When they realized their mistake after kidnapping him, the police say her boyfriend, and a friend murdered him, stuffed the corpse into a suitcase, and dumped it on the Delhi-Jodhpur highway. Sir, who published a paper last year looking at women's experiences on dating apps in the online journal Mainstream Weekly, the women I interviewed were extremely cautious on using these platforms. They were afraid of being slut-shamed. One of them had a friend who had been sexually assaulted by a man she had met on a dating app. Another, a bisexual, didn't write her sexual orientation down for fear of being subjected to creepy messages and sexual propositions from creepy men. Are the dating app algorithms people, for example, are 10 times more likely to contact white people on dating apps and sites than vice versa. In 2014, OkCupid found that a black woman and Asian men were likely to be rated substantially lower than other ethnic groups on its site, with Asian women and white men being most likely to be rated highly by other users. In a study published last year, researchers from Cornell University examined racial biases on the 25 highest grossing dating apps in the United States. They found race subsequently and frequently played a role in how matches were found. 19 of the apps requested users input their own race or ethnicity, 11 collected users' preferred ethnicity in a potential partner, and 17 allowed users to filter out others by ethnicity. In 2016, an international beauty contest was judged by AI artificial intelligence that had been trained on thousands of photos of women. Around 6,000 people from more than 100 countries then submitted photos, and the machine picked the most attractive. Out of the 44 winners, nearly all of them were white. Only one winner had dark skin. The creators of the system had not told the AI to be racist, but because they fed it comparatively low and few examples of women with dark skin, it decided on its own and for itself that light skin was associated with beauty. Through their optimum algorithms, dating apps run a similar risk. Young people of color in France told Le Monde their experiences of outright racism or fetishization while dating on these dating apps. Chriselle decided to uninstall her dating apps when she would open the conversation part of the app, and more than half the time, she says, she would receive racist messages right from the beginning of the conversation. Sometimes they would be explicit. Often they were veiled behind pseudo-compliments, which were in reality loaded with racial stereotypes. Sometimes people would say to me outright, "I don't want to date black girls because we're too aggressive," or sometimes they would say, "I prefer lighter-skinned girls." For no reason at all, I've had guys tell me, "I've always dreamed of sleeping with a black woman." "I know you're wild in bed," she said. We've all heard that sentence. It comes up a lot. On face-to-face dates or on Tinder, many young people perceived as non-white told us they've been very regularly come up against this type of degrading stereotype. On gay dating apps like grindr, many users have profiles that contain phrases like "I don't date black men" or claim they are not attracted to Latinos. Other times they'll list races acceptable to them, white/Asian/Latino only. This language is so persuasive on the app that websites such as douchebags of grindr and hashtags like #grindrwhileblack can be used to find countless examples of the abusive racist language that men use against people of color. Perhaps grindr has become particularly fertile ground for cruelty because it allows anonymously in the way of other dating apps do not. Scruff, another gay dating app, requires users to reveal more of who they are. However, on grindr, people are allowed to be anonymous and faceless, reduced to images of their torsos, or in some cases, no images at all. The emerging sociology of the internet has found that, time and time again, anonymously in the online life brings out the worst human behaviors. Only when people are known do they become accountable for their actions. Then there are men on dating apps who the men say they like Asian or Muslim women because they let their boyfriends dominate them. The men who cannot describe a woman of color without invoking foodstuffs, words like spicy and chocolate are their favorite flavors. There are men who get angry if they don't get an immediate response to a message. Then they resort to flinging racial slurs everywhere at the woman they were trying so hard to woo mere hours before. These dating apps are not new to the racism allegations. OkCupid announced on August 17th that it had banned Christopher Canwell, a white nationalist fascist who found fame in a Vice documentary about the Charlottesville protests, from the platform for life. He is banned for the platform for life. A user pointed out that his profile to site administrators. "There's no room for hate in a place where you're looking for love," OkCupid tweeted in a statement, urging users to report hate group members who kept profiles on the site. In the days before the white supremacists descended on Charlottesville, Bumble had already begun the process of strengthening its anti-racism efforts, partially in response to an attack the Daily Stormer had waged on the company, encouraging its readers to harass the staff of Bumble in order to protest the company's public support of women's feminism empowerment movement. After the neo-Nazi attack, Bumble contacted the Anti-Defamation League for help, identifying the hate symbols and rooting out users who include them in their Bumble profiles. Now the employees who respond to users' reports have the ADL glossary of hate symbols as a guide to see the telltale signs of a hate group membership, and any profile with language from the glossary will get flagged as potentially problematic. The platform has also added the Confederate flag to its list of prohibited images. There's also been tons of lawmakers who have been caught on these dating apps, these gay dating apps, who are anti-lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender plus communities. And to top it all off, the cherry on top, there are dating apps dedicated to white nationalism/fascists as well. Initially, the dating site for those wishing to preserve their white heritage. I stare at the announcement of what appears to be the world's first white supremacist dating site, Wasp Love. On the site, white Anglo-Protestants, WASPs, can follow fellow white people of diverse religions, nationalities, political ideologies, and backgrounds, united in one cause for the benefit of our race and children, says the headline. To create a profile on this app, you have to complete a lengthy questionnaire and provide details about your political ideology and religious views. The icebreakers and pickup lines sound a little like this. Conservative and patriotic is the standard answer, but some are a little more forthright. The 14 words are my goal, trying to build a nuclear family with a loving and loyal as she is humble stay-at-home wife, wanting many kids to bring honor to my family's name and legacy, or the church and the Lord are essential to keeping society from becoming degenerate shell it is today. When it comes to the capitalist comes first, the love comes second. Capitalism profits come first. Anyone who's used dating apps for a minute, and plenty of people who haven't, probably has concerns about them. One concern, far from unique to dating apps, is about the way these apps collect and use our data. From what we publish on our profiles to swiping behavior to geolocation data, the owners of these apps, like Hinder and Hinge, are collecting treasure troves of data on its users to refine their own apps and also to sell to third-party firms. With so much data from internet users having been gathered already, capitalist companies actually need to gather relatively small amounts of data to accurately predict many details about the users' lives. Users, of course, have little to say of whether or how the companies use their data. It is simply a price of administration for using these dating apps. This obviously raises concerns about privacy. People have an interest in anonymous strangers not having access to the most personal details of their lives. That these companies are ultimately